Hey everyone, my name is Ethan Brooks, and this is the first installment of a little experiment I'm going to be doing. I guess first things first, who the hell am I and why the hell am I here? As I said, my name is Ethan Brooks. I travel, I write, I run a small online business where I help small business owners tackle their marketing. All that is kind of aside though. The reason we're here, there's actually a couple reasons we're here. First of all, I've always wanted to learn to cook. Second of all, like I said, my work is online. I also like to write. All that adds up to a lot of time behind a computer. And so I figured by starting whatever this is, I get myself away from the computer for at least an hour or so a day, maybe. The goal here is really just to cook some food, maybe offer a little instruction there. I'm learning how to cook, so you can kind of watch me learn. Just have a good drink and discuss the things that are on my mind regarding either small business or travel or potentially something completely different. And the reason I've decided to do it in this format instead of writing is that what I've found in the last couple of weeks after really starting to consistently blog is that the more I write, the more ideas I have. And if you're a small business owner and a blogger and you've tried this, maybe you've run into the same issue. So, I'm running into a problem now where I don't have enough time to create all the content that I want to create. So I think this is kind of the fastest way to cover some of the shorter things. So that's what I'm going to be talking about here. I don't know how long the video is going to be. It's going to be super low quality. I'm just no editing whatsoever. Kind of a mix between Wine About It and The Random Show, if you guys watch those things. If you don't, check them out. They're pretty cool. And let's just get started. So, first things first, what are we making? I am here in South Wraxall, England at the moment, staying at my host's house and taking care of her dog for the week. And it's dinner time, and I'm gonna roast a chicken. This is a favorite. This is something I usually lean on when I'm trying to cook for groups. It's really, really, really simple, and it's usually a crowd pleaser. All we're gonna do is we've got some potatoes and carrots from a local farmer's market, onions also, and then these are cooking apples from the garden out back. And we're just going to chop them up, throw them in a pan, butterfly a chicken, throw the chicken on top, throw it in the oven. That's it. It's pretty simple. There's a little bit of seasoning in there, but not much. And when you cook it right, it comes out really, really good. So this is always a favorite. So, first things first. What am I doing here? I'm just going to slice these just like scalloped potatoes. And the reason I do that is because here in the UK, and I don't know what it is, we've got some kind of strange oven, and it cooks just super, super fast. So it can be a little bit difficult to get the timing right on different cuts of meat. What I've found through experimenting is that these potato wedges are kind of the best option, and they end up coming out like a cross between baked potatoes and French fries. So, let's talk business a little bit. Got some notes here, and real quick, if you guys are business owners, you might be note-taking freaks like I am too. In which case, this is not a typical moleskin notebook. This is what's called the 180 degree art book from Canson, and it's my new favorite. I was introduced to these by my dad. Thank you, Dad. And the great thing about them is that they are designed to lay perfectly flat no matter what page you're open to. And if you've written in these hardcover notebooks before, you know what a pain in the ass it can be to write or read things anywhere near the binding. This totally takes care of it. Big fan of those. So, first note that I have here is 3 tools that I'm using to run my business from the road. Now, why am I running my business from the road? Maybe that's a better place to start. I've always enjoyed traveling, and I've always wanted to be self-employed. Now, the book, The 4-Hour Workweek, just changed my perception of what I was capable of. And ever since I read it, right after getting into college, I've just been trying to get closer and closer to that perfect 4-hour workweek business where you're doing something you love and you're getting paid generously for your time, and you have freedom of location and all the benefits that go along with that. And what I found is that I hate this metaphor, but I think it was Brian Tracy talked a lot about how when a plane flies cross country, it knows the starting point and it knows the ending point, but it's off course 98% of the time, or something like that. The pilots are constantly course correcting towards that end goal, and that's pretty much been my experience with the business so far. These are carrots, by the way. We're just doing the exact same cut to carrots, and this is something that I actually experimented with last night, and it worked out pretty well. So anyways, over the past couple years, it's been a series of course corrections in order to get to where I am now. I got involved in online marketing probably about 5 years ago, building small websites for business owners, and one thing turned to another, and I was able to make a pretty good living for myself, self-employed, doing online marketing. But the problem was, I did not have the travel bit. In fact, I was living in my parents' basement still, working all the time. And so despite the fact that I was self-employed, I did not have anything close to the type of life that I really wanted to live. And so what I did was, at a certain point, I just kind of had like a breaking point where I realized that I was like, you know what? If I don't go make a drastic change now, I may never. So what I did was I left and I spent a month on the Appalachian Trail. And that was a pretty transformative experience. And I was worried originally that the business might fall apart when I left. But I was so overworked and frankly not seeing the type of results that I wanted and not enjoying my life the way that I wanted, that I said, you know what, fuck it. If it falls apart, it's got to fall apart. So I spent the month on the Appalachian Trail, and then I got to my hotel at my end point in Gatlinburg, which for those of you who've hiked the AT, you know that's not supposed to be a month. That's like 2 weeks, but that's a different story. Got to the hotel and was faced with a decision about how to go back to work. Do I go home and try to restart things, with a different mindset, or do I rent a place down south and try and start the business up down there, on my own? What do I do? And what I realized there was my biggest goal is not income. My biggest goal is to have a series of experiences, mostly to do with traveling, at least at this point. And so what that equated to was I could take a hit on the income. I could risk taking a hit on the income, but travel needed to be my main focus. Likewise, if travel was the main focus, then it only made sense to continue building the business from the road. So that became my goal. My goal became get out and travel, and then by necessity, you will create a business that can be run while you're traveling. Because it's one thing to say, well, I want to create a business that leaves me with, freedom of location. And to try to build that at home, I think you can get pretty close. But if you never take it out on the road, you will find as soon as you leave that there are a lot of things you overlooked, a lot of things you take for granted that you do back at home that you just need to set up differently if you're going to be traveling. And I'm sure we'll talk about some of those throughout the course of these videos. Likewise, or not likewise, but by the way, if you have any questions about the things that I'm talking about, feel free to comment wherever you found this video. It's probably best if you either go to my blog, which is The Right to Roam, and contact me there, or I pay a lot of attention to Reddit and might pay attention to the YouTube comments, but I don't know. Commenters have no soul. So, you can't pay too much attention to the comments. So anyways, if you have any questions, try to get in touch with me and I'll see if I can answer them here. So I took off and I started building my business from the road. Specifically, I'm using a combination of two websites. One is called trustedhousesitters.com and the other one is called workaway.info. And what those two websites allow you to do is search around the world for people who are looking for help in one way or another in exchange for room and board. So with Trusted House Sitters, that's exclusively people who are not going to be home. They're looking for somebody to watch their house while they're gone, and oftentimes their pets. And I've got a lot of experience in both of those, so that's a pretty cool place. I actually just got that account today, and I'm looking forward to playing with that. The other one, Workaway, that's actually how I found this host. And Workaway is neat because you can sign up to help out with lots of different things, whatever your skill set is. So if you are a good cook, or if you're good with kids, or if you have worked on a farm before, or if you know a construction trade, electrical or plumbing or something like that. In my case, as an online marketer, there's a lot of people that are looking for help with that. You can go on there and you can set up, I think it's cheap, it's like $30. You set up an account and then you start searching for people in the countries that you want to visit, and you can refine the search by the type of work you want to offer, and it'll set you up with a whole bunch of cool potential hosts. And that's how I landed here. So I'm in England, and I'm able to work a couple of hours a day with my host. In exchange, I get a roof over my head, and then I build my business in the afternoons. And so it puts a lot less pressure on my income and allows me to travel the way I want to, and and actually maybe more importantly, build my business the way I want to. Because there's a lot of pressure. If you say I'm gonna build business from the road, now it's on you to perform. You need to be bringing in money, because when you don't have a single base camp, your expenses are way higher. Rent here in the UK isn't super cheap, and if I was paying for a place, that would force me to say yes to certain types of business that may not be in my best interest, and can really kind of slow you down more than help you out when you're building a business at this stage. So, Trusted House Sitters and Workaway.info. That's how I got to be here. That's why I'm on the road and building my business from the road. Now, by the way, at this stage, I'm just cutting onions. I peeled the onion, and then I'm just going to chop it up coarse. So anyways, 3 tools that I'm using right now that I've been really impressed with. And I might add a couple of this as we're talking, because there are a couple of really good ones that I suggest to everybody. The first one is Square Appointments, which I just found. So one of the things that I offer now is a consultation service, and in order to book that out, I was using something built by one of the WordPress developers that works with WooCommerce. I don't want to get too technical right here, in case you guys aren't WordPress fans, but um, what I found is something called Square Appointments. And I kind of stumbled on this by accident, but I actually really, really like the way it's set up. There's two things in particular that I like about it. First of all, I'm already set up to bill through Square. If you haven't heard of Square, they do billing and like credit card processing, and I'm already set up to use them, which means that I can bill my customers faster through them than I could through the other tool that I was using, which is good because when you run a small business, cash flow is king. The second thing I really liked, and this is like the dark arts of small business, is they've got this filter. I think it's called the fake it till you make it filter. And what it does is it actually books out some of your time slots so that when people land on your website, uh, it looks like you're busier than you are. Now this is a technique. I don't know. It's probably controversial. Go ahead and comment if you want. But this is a technique that I've used several times before when trying to get traction with a small business, or really with any venture. One of the things that is absolutely necessary when you're running, say, a small business or a charity is something called social proof. People have to feel like you've already been successful before they'll jump on board. And, oh, by the way, I'm cutting an apple here, and I'm going to roast it alongside with these root vegetables because it just gives like a little bit of sweetness to the whole mix. So, social proof is very important. Now, one time, I used to run a film production crew, and we were trying to raise money for a charity. And we had a contest, and I think maybe I'll link to it if the video is still around somewhere. We had a contest where we were trying to, I think we had 15 minutes to raise as much money as we could. It was me and one of my co-founders, and we were competing against each other to raise money. And what I did was I took a couple dollars out of my own pocket and threw them in the change cup, because then when I was talking to people, it was clear to them that somebody else had already bought into the scenario, right? And, well, needless to say, I won that particular competition. So social proof is big, and I like the fact that they offer that to business owners. It's pretty cool. So if you're running a small business and you're booking appointments and you're just getting started, at the point where you don't have a lot of steady clients, but you've got a quality product, a quality service, I'd suggest checking them out. Because if you have an empty calendar, that's probably more of a liability than no calendar at all. And you'll see this with a lot of consultants or people who take appointments with clients. People like, I don't know, massage experts, maybe. You'll see that they have like an online booking system, or, oh, here's a good one, B&B owners, or, small hostels. You'll see that they have an online booking system, but it's empty. And that's either because they're taking bookings somewhere else and it's not updating in the computer, or because they just don't have the business. And that can turn people away pretty quick. So if you're a small business owner, social proof's important. I like Square Appointments because they offer this. That's just a small example of understanding that you understanding your target market. You understand their needs, and that's important to me. So Square Appointments, check it out, see if it's a good fit for you. What else am I using? The Skype subscription. I just picked this up the other day, and it's just been phenomenal. I think it's like $6 a month, and I can call landlines and mobile lines in the U.S. Unlimitedly. I don't know if that's a word. But it's unlimited calling the landlines and mobile lines in the U.S. And that's been huge, huge, because one, that's how I do my appointments, and two, that's how I get in touch with other team members in order to do like I'm in the middle of a big website launch right now, and for virtually the entire project, we were all in touch via email. But for this launch, we hit some pretty big roadblocks, and we needed to be in constant contact. I don't have a phone in the UK, but I was able to use Skype, and I just bought the subscription like, I don't know, 3 days ago, and I think I've already spent like 6 or 7 hours on the phone between my teammates and client support at things like my hosting company and stuff like that. So if you're traveling overseas and you don't have a mobile phone, I really can't recommend the Skype subscription service that they run enough. They also do one where you can call Europe, and I think there might be one specifically for the UK, but I'll link through to it and you can check it out if you're interested. The last one, oh, this is a cool one. So, Simpleology. And by the way, these are all services that I'm paying for right now. So, I don't get any kickback for mentioning these. And if you're interested as a business owner, just know that there is a fee that comes along with them, but they're worth it. You get what you pay for when you start to hit a certain level of need. At least that's been my experience. So the last tool is this tool called Simpleology. And this is something that I've actually been using for probably about 2 years now. And what it is it's a website specifically catered towards creating your to-do list for the day. And I think it was built around a lot of the concepts involved in the book, Getting Things Done. If you've ever read that book, I believe this tool was built with a lot of influence from that. But it's fantastic. It basically takes you through a brainstorming process each morning where you write down like everything that's on your mind, and then you're forced to go through and categorize all of it based on level of importance, and it gives you a lot of options to drop things out. And saying no to certain tasks is probably the most important thing that we do as business owners, learning what to say no to. So it really forces you to consider where you're going to spend your time. And one of the things that I like about the program, as opposed to maybe trying to do that in a notebook, is that the program forces you to go through training. And the training is every single day for like, I don't know, I think I went through it for 3 to 6 months. It was a long time. And it's pretty repetitive. You do the same thing every single day. But what they're doing is they are instilling a habit, the habit of basically getting organized and accomplishing what you set out for yourself to do on a daily basis. Which, I mean, that right there is like the difference between success and failure. So the tool was huge for me. I'm a big fan of it. And I think it's free all the way up through the training, and then at some point you have to start paying for it in order to unlock the additional functionality that's like really critical. But it's cheap. I think it's like a couple of bucks a month. So totally worth it if you're one of these people who struggles with feeling overwhelmed, or like struggles to figure out what it is you want to do in a given day, and you feel like you work all day and you didn't get anything important done. If you've ever had that experience, which I think we all have, check it out. Simpleology. Very cool tool. So, what else do I have on here? Let me tell you a little bit about what I'm still doing over here on the cutting board. And we're almost done. This is just garlic. Again, picked up from one of the local farmers markets. And I gotta say, as an American, I've been very impressed and really quite pleased with the quality of the food that's available over here in the UK on a regular basis. My eggs come from next door. The apple is from the garden. They grow beets here. They grow a lot of, what else? There's like cabbage and Brussels sprouts and all kinds. There's a greenhouse with grapes in it on the property, and there's a lot of greenhouses popping up all around the village. You go into town, there's a farmer's market on like Mondays and Thursdays, and then there's an organic vegetable man who sells his stuff 2 days a week, and then there's a butcher who, I'm not entirely sure, but none of you probably live here, so it doesn't matter. But the point is, there's really good access to high quality food, and that's impressed me. I think we need a little bit more of that back in the States, which is another reason that I'm over here, is just kind of to learn a little bit about the different quality of life. Speaking of which, if you want a third tool that can help you travel for free, check out woofing. And if you haven't heard of woofing, that's spelled WWOOF. That stands for Worldwide Opportunities for Organic Farmers. And what it is it's this huge international organization of farmers all over the world that are willing to feed and house you in exchange for some help on their farm. And that help can range from a couple of hours a day to full time. And any different kind of farming you could possibly think of. And I've actually used this. It was suggested to me by a friend, and I used it to live in Hawaii, 1 mile from Waimanalo Beach, which is regularly voted one of the most beautiful beaches in America. We were 1 mile from the beach, and my rent, so I only worked 4 hours a day, 5 days a week, I think it was, and I paid $100 a month to live there. So if you look at the rent prices in Hawaii, you can see it's a pretty cool trade, especially if you are a starving college student, which I was at the time, or if you're just interested in learning a little bit more about farming and organic food. You meet a lot of interesting people as well. 1 minute, I gotta go grab the chicken. The chicken is not organic, but it is from here in the UK, so it's not from China, which I don't know, maybe a lot of American chicken is. I think I've heard that before. I can't verify it. I saw a video online that showed this. I think they were slaughtering beef cattle, and I gotta say, I'm a red-blooded American. I love me a steak, and I'm not against killing animals. I do think I think you have to kill in order to stay alive. On some level, losing sight of that is what's made our food system so crazy in the first place. Even if you're a vegetarian, theoretically, you are exploiting the life of another thing in order to sustain your own. So that is a necessary part of life. It's part of the natural cycle of things. But the way they were killing these cattle, it freaked the shit out of me. And it was so, like, Orson Welles kind of creepy, mechanical. It did not give me a good vibe. And so for that reason, this chicken is actually the last bit of meat that I've bought recently. And what I have to do is find a better way of sourcing more humanely slaughtered meat. So keep an eye out on my blog. I'm going to be writing an article about that for those of you who are interested. Now, I'm going to see if I can do this over here. We're going to do what's called butterfly this chicken. And I'm not a chef, so if I've got that term wrong, please correct me. I also don't have a good knife, so this is going to be a little bit messy. This is one of those Kyocera ceramic knives. It gets the job done, but I absolutely hate it. One thing I'd recommend, if you're into cooking and you're into traveling, would be it'd be a little bit difficult if you're getting on a lot of airplanes, but like one good chef's knife to bring with you everywhere. One good chef's knife, one decent cutting board, maybe a hand, like some of your own sea salt, something like that. Makes the cooking a lot better when you get to places that don't have the tools you're used to. So anyways, all we're going to do is just basically, I believe this is the spine, and we're just going to cut it out. So one slice down the left side, one slice down the right side. Remove that, and you're basically cracking ribs here, so it's going to be kind of difficult. It's better if you have a heavy chef's knife. I'm going to stop talking for a second so I don't cut my hand off. All right, so that's one cut. Take this is a technique that I saw in one of Alton Brown's cookbooks. If you're not familiar with him, he ran the TV show Good Eats for several years, and again, it's a little bit more what's the word I'm looking for? Elegant, maybe, with a heavier duty knife, but you got to do what you got to do with what you got. So now, okay. You don't want to throw this out. Bag it, freeze it, throw it in the stock pot. After you cook a couple of chickens up, you can throw their bones right in the pot of boiling water, and you just simmer it for a few hours along with salt, pepper, garlic. Or I don't think I would put any pepper in it. Just salt and garlic, and get yourself a great chicken stock. So this is prepped. I'm gonna wash my hands real quick. Forgot to show you one thing. All right, at this point, we've got a pan of onions, potatoes, carrots, apples, and chopped garlic. All I'm going to do to season this up is olive oil, just drizzle it on, and then this is salt. Typically I would use sea salt if you can find it, but if you can't, just use salt. It's just a roast. And then I do use a little pepper, although I've read in some places that you shouldn't cook with black pepper, that it should only go on after the food is done. That might be a misquote. Anyways, I use pepper, just on the vegetables though. So then you just take your hands and you toss them. And what I try to do here is just ensure that everything gets at least a decent coating of the oil and the salt and pepper. Now usually when I prep this, I do an entire pan full of the vegetables and then I throw the chicken on top. And what that helps to do is keep the chicken out of its own juices, so the skin of the chicken gets nice and crispy, and the juices run down and make the vegetables tender. In this case, I'm a little bit short on vegetables, so I'm going to just arrange them around the outside edges of the pan, and I'll put the chicken in the middle. Now, with the chicken, once again, there is a more elegant way to do this, but I happen to have forgotten what it is. So all you do is you're going to lie it so that the cavity is down, and then with your hands, you're just going to press it. And what you're doing here is you're trying to get it to lay as flat as like a book with a broken binding. What that's going to do, that's going to open up the surface area of the chicken to the heat of the oven, and it'll also make it so that it just fits into the oven a little bit better. So you take it, you put it down right in the middle of your pan, and now here's the trick to amazing chicken. Keep washing your hands, by the way. The trick to amazing chicken so far as I can tell, comes from Brazil. Back in my hometown in Connecticut, we have some very small Brazilian restaurants, and here's what they do. They cook over an open fire with just sea salt for seasoning. We don't have sea salt here, but if you just salt it, that's it. No olive oil, no Mrs. Dash's crazy chicken recipe, no pepper, just salt. Now remember, if you're seasoning for, the chicken's going to feed 4 people, you've got to season for 4 people, so don't go too light on it. The chicken is also going to, the salt is also going to crisp the skin up when you cook it. This whole thing goes in the oven about 350 degrees, and I'd say it usually takes about an hour, hour and a half. Check it yourself. Just keep checking it. 350 degrees. Check it after an hour. You're good to go. So guys, thank you for watching. Like I said, this was the first of what's going to be a handful of videos like this. Be happy to respond to any questions you have. If you have questions about internet marketing or travel, those tend to be kind of my 2 sweet spots. If you don't have questions, I'm trying to take notes and just about what's on my mind or what's been going on. And I will try to come up with my own conversation topics. And if you have any constructive criticism, feel free to leave it in the comments section. If you have any pessimistic criticism, feel free to fuck off. And until then, I'll see you next time.